Representative Lindenberg spoke again about this situation here. I want to show you, put it up there, traitor to the country. It looked really bad. This situation looked really bad. Take a look here.
Flavio Bolsonaro defends MasterCard and Visa. Guys, you won't believe it. In this new letter sent to the American government, which is basically a letter of national betrayal, he talks about leaving it for after the election. He openly defends reducing regulation and taxation for MasterCard and Visa regarding the fees. We've always said that the attack on PIX was because of the interests of these big American corporations. Now it's written here, an article from Folha de São Paulo. The senator also proposes to reduce the regulatory and tax burden on credit cards, a market dominated by American companies Visa and MasterCard. Here is the excerpt where he says, in quotes, "Private payment instruments today carry a regulatory and tax burden that suppresses competition instead of fostering it. They are traitors. They don't think about national interests. There's more. He offers the United States a zero tax rate on American ethanol. This is a shame, folks. It's a shame. It's a shame. An explicit betrayal of the country. That's why they attack PIX, to defend MasterCard and Visa."
It's absurd, guys. Put it up there. Truly a traitor to the country. There's no other way. He's licking Donald Trump's boots because he knows he can't beat Lula. So he wants Donald Trump to interfere in Brazil. That's what he wants. So he's putting that up for negotiation and putting our PIX, our sovereignty at risk. The issue of the big tariff hike, which they went after it. And now, since they saw that it backfired, they're trying to overturn the big tariff hike. But they're selling out. They're putting Brazil up for sale for this. It's absurd. And it's Santino. Look, here's Santino. Unmasking him here. Pay attention. This video is really interesting.
Very serious, and I ask you to watch until the end. They did this to my father, and now they want to do it to me too. Let's separate the criminals from the innocent.
Prospective presidential candidate from the PL party, Senator Flavio Bolsonaro, was received today by American President Donald Trump at the White House.
The United States made a new tariff threat against Brazil.
So, the ones being retaliated against are not Brazilian companies. The one being retaliated against is Lula himself.
He doesn't realize that he won't be hurting Lula. He'll be hurting the Brazilian people. He'll be hurting Brazilian business owners.
Federal Deputy Eduardo Bolsonaro of São Paulo's PL party announced he will take a leave of absence and remain in the United States.
And what if you, a Brazilian business owner, want to invest in the United States? I love the American people and the United States as a country.
The government plans to meet soon with United States trade representatives to discuss the two tariffs announced last week.
Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro said he will not facilitate dialogue.
And I work so that they don't have any dialogue, folks, so I could expect more tariffs.
Senator Flavio Bolsonaro, Liberal Party presidential hopeful, demanded money from Daniel Forcar. The senator claims he needed to finish a film about his father.
Approximately $60 million would have been transferred to the production company, which denies having received any money. The total amount exceeds recent national productions.
After the revelation about the exchange of messages between Flavio Bolsonaro and Daniel Forcar, the senator and the producers of the film about Jair Bolsonaro presented different versions regarding the destination of the money sent by the bank owner.
The arrest of banker Daniel Forcar brought to light evidence of a financial fraud estimated at 12 billion reais.
The Ministry of Finance agency responsible for combating financial crimes identified that the company, among investments, received 160 million reais from funds linked to Banco Master.
The company was the intermediary in Forcaro's transfers for the film about former President Jair Bolsonaro.
Eduardo Bolsonaro's name appears in a contract as executive producer.
A contract that established powers over the financial management of the project.
Eduardo instructed this intermediary to send as many resources as possible to finance the film about the life of the former President Jair Bolsonaro's father.
A very warm welcome to the next president of Brazil, Flávio.
Does anyone think the U.S. will favor Brazil? Americans think of Americans first, Americans second, they think of Americans third, and if there's any time left, they think of Americans. And the Brazilian lackeys keep thinking that the Americans are going to do something for us.
Someone salutes the American flag.
We are the ones who must act for ourselves.
You can write it down. We're the ones who have to do it for ourselves. Now, it's very clear Flavio is trying to blame Lula for the big tariff increase. It was very clear in this video that the ones who pushed for the big tariff increase and the whole situation were them. Because at the beginning, they thought they were going to take down Lula and Alexandre de Moraes with Donald Trump. But they didn't take them down. And it turned out to be a big shot in the foot because it branded Flavio Bolsonaro and Eduardo Bolsonaro as traitors to the country. It caught them. That landed with the Brazilian public. So that backfired. Now they're trying to undo the mess they made. And Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about Eduardo Bolsonaro or Flavio Bolsonaro. That's it. So what are they trying to do now? Blame Lula, even though they were the ones who went after all of this. Just so you know, he sent a letter now talking about Daniel Vocaro's fraud and saying that Lula is involved. He didn't mention the movie. About Bolsonaro's nag, the movie which received millions of reais. He didn't mention the call, his audio, Flavio, demanding millions of reais in stolen money from Daniel Vocaro. They are desperate. And with this, they are also trying to create a smokescreen to cover up the scandal of misogyny and machismo against Michelle Bolsonaro and Damaris Alves and against all the women of Brazil. They are absolutely desperate, guys. That's the situation. Congressman Leonel Hadi also talked about this just now. Pay attention here. The congressman's statement is really interesting.
And now Flavio Bolsonaro has once again handed Brazil over to Trump. He asked that the 25% tax on our exports doesn't happen, at least for now, so it doesn't harm his campaign. But that later it could take effect, regardless of whether he wins the election or not. I mean, someone who gives up his country for purely personal interests, just so his campaign isn't harmed, but sides with the interests of the United States. He even said he will lower interest rates, debts, and taxes on credit cards to benefit companies, not the users. There, credit card companies from the United States. This is Flavio Bolsonaro, and there are even right-wing women trying to mobilize against the Bolsonarist attacks happening on social media, because this is a criminal faction. And besides being a criminal faction, mainly interested in personal gain and embezzlement, for those who are not following, Claudio Castro is even involved with the PCC and Comando Vermelho. And this is already being very well defined and demonstrated by the federal police in their investigations. Claudio Castro, an early ally of Flavio Bolsonaro. That's why they want to change the government so the investigations will end. Now he puts Brazil once again on a platter for Donald Trump, saying, no, don't impose tariffs now because it could hurt my election. But later they have every right, and we will even make life easier for credit card companies and stores. Of course, that's very logical. It will destroy our PIX. Now they claim it has nothing to do with PIX, but it does. That's the main dispute and the reason for the tax. They're taxing us because of PIX. It's right there in the document, so folks, keep your eyes open. We can't accept this kind of phony patriot, especially one involved in various corruption scandals. And allied with Vocaro, allied with the PCC, allied with the Red Command, we have to stay alert and not allow this setback for our country. We have resisted until now. Now it's time to defeat fascism. No one does anything alone until victory always.
Yeah, and the desperation is everywhere, right, guys? Flavio, in the latest poll now, his disapproval rating hit a record high, right? Flavio has the highest disapproval rating of all, at over 60% in the latest poll that just came out. Even the Paraná poll, which is paid for by the PL, showed Lula with 48% of the vote. So continuing like this, the tendency, like I told you all, is to radicalize, just like Flavio, I just showed you, blatantly lying is to radicalize. But why? Because he has desperation on his side. He doesn't have the truth on his side, and he knows what he did last summer. So the idea is to radicalize with lies and everything to try to cover up the truth and create smoke screens. Get ready, he's about to go for total radicalization. Meanwhile, at the same time, the right is trying to bring Michelle in to maybe replace Flavio, who soon won't even be able to run as a candidate. That's the situation. And Flavio knows what I'm talking about here. Flavio knows that, you see? So I told you, look here, the Haber-Habergate fund used by Volcaro to send money to the Bolsonaros in the United States was a fake real estate project. The Intercept reveals this. The Intercept revealed that this fund where the money went, over 60 million, which was supposed to be for the movie, they say it went to this fund, but nobody really knows if it did. Truth be told, guys, nobody knows. Nobody knows where those more than 60 million reais that Daniel Volcaro transferred to the Bolsonaros went. They say it was for the movie, but nobody presents the movie's financial report. They say it was for the Haber-Habergate fund, but nobody presents the documentation for this Haber-Habergate from Eduardo Bolsonaro's lawyer there in Texas. But the Intercept presented documentation saying that this Haber-Habergate was created as a fund to develop real estate projects, where the person would invest and have the right to a plot of land in the real estate development. And that never actually happened. It never got off the ground. It's a scheme, right? It's a front, isn't it, guys? There are so many situations. Let me tell you something. Each one is worse than the last. Meanwhile, look at this. How absurd. Between brothers, Andre Mendonça suspends Crivellà's ineligibility, who was convicted of corruption. Mendonça's measure interrupts the effects of the decision by the Regional Electoral Court of Rio de Janeiro, which in October 2024 convicted Crivellà for abuse of political power and economic power in a case related to the corruption scheme known as the Kickback Headquarters. The scheme over there in Rio de Janeiro with bribes everywhere, especially involving healthcare. He was convicted by the Regional Electoral Court and as a result became ineligible. Then Crivellà filed an appeal and it ended up in the Federal Supreme Court, in whose hands? It wasn't in the Supreme Court, but the Superior Electoral Court with Andre Mendonça, who overturned Crivellà's ineligibility. This decision by Andre Mendonça has to go through the panel to see if the panel agrees with this decision or not. But until it goes through the panel, Crivellà's decision stands. I mean, Andre Mendonça's decision, which means what, Andrea? That if Andre Mendonça's decision stands, Crivellà will be able to register his candidacy. And before you know it, he'll run in the election and get elected again. That's what this means. That's the situation. Andre Mendonça doesn't show up, right, guys? And when he does, he's just making excuses for his friends, for his partners in crime, for his allies. Anyway, it's a complicated situation, right, guys? Meanwhile, right-wing women are organizing action in the United States in response to attacks by Eduardo Bolsonaro's group against Michelle Bolsonaro. A group of conservative women is causing a split in Bolsonarism and accusing people linked to Eduardo Bolsonaro, such as Alan Alando Santos and Paulo Figueiredo, of slander, defamation, and insult after Michelle's videos. Firmo Bolsonaro against Flávio Bolsonaro. They are contacting their legal team to sue, to go after them there in the United States for insult, slander, and defamation. That's the situation. You always cover for them, don't you? They always said, oh, there can't be censorship, oh, blah, blah, blah. Now they're in this situation, and you have to go after them. If you don't go after them, they'll keep going. Now, it's what I always say. What are you going to do about it? Simply revealing this is not enough. You have to get out of this Bolsonarist environment, which is sexist and misogynistic. Because before you know it, you might end up making excuses and saying everything is fine, that it was just a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. Then it will turn into the same mess it always was. So you need to have some self-respect and get out of this Bolsonarism, which is misogynistic and sexist. And it doesn't deserve the support of women. That's what needs to be done. Otherwise, it's just more of the same and not enough. Soon you'll be making excuses for this whole situation. Shall we see another statement? Go ahead and like the live stream, leave a comment, and share it this Friday. You know that the whole debate about ending the 6-day work week is going on in the Senate, where Davy Alcolumbri's big butt sat on top of the bill and it's not moving forward. He doesn't even put it up for consideration, but there were several debates in the Senate yesterday and the day before. And I want to show you a little bit, just a snippet of some speeches in the Senate about this. Meanwhile, put it up there. End the 6-day work week now. You can put Davi Alcolumbre, enemy of the people. Either he lets it go through or the people have to take to the streets en masse. Pay attention.
Brazil is ready for this journey.
Having free time to dedicate to your family, to dedicate to studying, to dedicate to leisure.
Most of those who work in the second and first tiers work more than 40 hours. These 44 hours are reserved for those who earn less.
It's a discussion about quality of life, yes, in public health. It's a discussion about the future of labor relations.
We women have a priority.
It dropped, but that was it. Several people stood up to defend the end of the 6-day work week. I'm not going to show the speech of those who weren't defending the end of the 6-day work week because it's not worth it. Because what do we want? The end of the 6-day work week isn't going to break anyone, folks. It's not going to break anyone. That's just a line they're feeding you. You have the right to rest at least 2 days during the week after 5 days of work without a pay cut. And this is an issue that, regardless, has nothing to do with the right or the left. So much so that the latest IBGE survey shows that more than 80% of the population is in favor of this. And you have to stop and consider the following. If you sometimes believe in the elite and all that, if you're poor, if you're a worker, knock it off. Use reality as your standard. Which reality? The federal deputies and the senators. They have a 3-on, 4-off schedule. They are required to work basically to show up for work only 3 days. The other 7 days of the week, whether they're working or not, nobody checks. And they earn almost 50,000 Rs. And you, just an ordinary person, can't you have 2 days off? While they work a schedule of 3 days on and 4 days off. And God only knows what they're doing. It's a matter of fairness. It's a matter of justice. Do you understand? That's why we want to end the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. That's it. This is a measure of justice, and it won't break anyone at all. Now, Antonio De Paula also talked about the operation over there in Rio de Janeiro. He's from there too and can talk about it. Pay attention here.
It's unbelievable how far the failure of politics in Rio de Janeiro has gone. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. During the launch of the 5th Operation Nail and Flesh, which arrested the Rio de Janeiro gambling boss, Adilchinho, a list of politicians was seized. And of people he gave a little cash to, a little money, people he bought. Can you believe that Claudinho Lalao is on this list? It's true. The governor of Rio de Janeiro. Whoever governed the state of Rio de Janeiro received a bribe from the racketeer Adilchinho. This bribe could exceed a meager 3 million Rs. What a shame. That's crazy. Who there? How did this guy govern the state of Rio de Janeiro for so long? Claudinho Lalao receiving money from illegal gambling? This is a shame. Now, what's really shameful is this political group wanting to return to power in Rio de Janeiro. What's shameful is this political group presenting themselves as an alternative because we need to defeat Lula's foot soldier, Eduardo Paes. You guys are really scoundrels. So pay attention. The group that's asking for your vote today, led by Douglas Ruas, it's the same group as Claudinho Lalao's that had the support of the Bolsonaro family. Yes, the son, Senator Flavio Bolsonaro, is the one who always gave political support to Claudinho and Lalao, the governor of Rio de Janeiro who received money from illegal gambling. And I won't be surprised if this group, who were already living in the world of corruption, shows up in this so-called Vocaro video, the astronaut's little party. That's how it is, folks. This is the God Country family crowd. Corruption. And they rise. It's a shame what we're seeing from this hypocrisy of the Bolsonaro, right?
Wow, the place is on fire. And you know what I think? I think it's not enough. What I really want is the federal police knocking on the doors of these criminal lowlifes. Right, Flavio? That's what I want. And you? Hit the like button, comment, and share. Kisses, my beautiful people. See you next time.